Hey, what's going on there, folks? Good afternoon. It is the Earthmaster back here on this weekend. It is Saturday, June 3rd, 2023, about 11:41 a.m. here along the west coast in the state of California. Latest quake, a 1.9 earthquake showing up on the big island of Hawaii. That also showing up here on Cone Peak. That is a station very close to the Kilauea volcano. Been watching this area pretty closely due to elevated conditions there. A lot of activity ramping up here into the South America region, as we see in a pretty good cluster of earthquake activity, mainly in this bend right here along the Peru-Chile Trench. That is, of course, a major accumulator of stress, and looks like some activity further working its way down south here along the Chile area as well. So continuing to watch that for some possible larger scale movement. Up here in the States, we got a little bit of activity from last night that we were seeing up in southern Wyoming. Also some movement there in Trinidad, Colorado from last night as well. Looks like we did see a little bit of activity so far this morning with a 2.8 and a 2.5 over here around the New Madrid seismic zone. That activity there within that hazard area around Kentucky and Missouri. Throughout the Pacific Northwest, relatively quiet, except for a little bit of small microquake activity here across the Mount Rainier area. Looks like a little bit of movement up in the Summit region. Very small microquake activity. Doesn't look like too much movement's taking place there, but let's go ahead and check out the volcanic seismicity map here, the seismograph stations, and see what we have going on. We'll check out the live data. St. Andrews Rock area, Mount Rainier, Washington. Hopefully these are working. There we go. So this is a interference, some type of interference signal there. That was last night sometime, it looks like. Goodness. And a little bit of movement here. There's those couple smaller earthquakes showing up here on the graph. Very minimal movement here at Mount Rainier. We're not seeing any elevated conditions here across that volcano for now. You never know. One of these days it will be active once again. Northern California over here around the Clear Lake Volcanic Field. This is the Calpine hydrothermal operations here. Did have a 4.5 about 5 o'clock this morning. Things are getting a little bit shaky out there. Again, this is the major hotspot for hydrothermal activity, and also some power plants out here. Now, these are not your typical power plants, but they do generate energy from injecting raw sewage below into the heated surface to create some type of dry steam, and they utilize that steam, of course, to create energy. But there's quite a few plants out here, as you can see, and today most of the activity, including that 4.5 out here, is, well, literally within just feet of one of the plants. As you can see, it's fairly active out there today. All right, backing out of here, Northern California. The rest of the state looks fairly quiet. Far as Reno area goes, we were watching that yesterday. So far, we did see, looks like another 2.0 and a 1.5 and a 1.4, the more recent earthquake here in this cluster of earthquakes that we've been seeing northwest of Reno for a little while. Just kind of watching that. Although it looks like it's tapered off slightly so far this morning. The rest of the state of California here, very spotty across the plate boundary. That's the San Andreas Fault. A little bit of movement here in a cluster near the Woodford Heights area, it looks like. 13 kilometers east-southeast there of that region. Bella Vista area, it looks like. Nothing big. Quite a few, looks like some microquakes there in the 2 range. The largest is a 2.7 down there at about 7 kilometers or so below the surface. Further down south, a little spotty as well. Nothing major going on here across the southern portion of the state. It's just very minimal activity. And up into the Yellowstone area, nothing going on there. Of course, there's that earthquake from yesterday. Actually, this is a new one, a 3.2 from early this morning. It looks like just after midnight. We did have a little bit larger one, 3.9 within that area. Let me bring that back up here. and show you guys within that same area yesterday, but yesterday early in the morning time, so it's past that 24-hour period near the Saratoga area of Wyoming. Don't see too much earthquake activity out here, and it's been a little while. Far as historical data goes, let's see what we got here for earthquake activity. Doesn't look like there's too much out here. Far as the key goes, 4.5 and above, doesn't look like anything. Of course, who's to say that maybe some new fault systems may be building out here near this area. But of course, got to remember there's some mountain ranges and whatnot out here. All these were brought up a long time ago. Looks like still providing some plate stress out here in this area. It is somewhat up against the North American craton here, which is the center portion of the North American plate. That's relatively stable as far as plate dynamics go. But a little bit of odd earthquake activity there. Keep an eye on that. Been kind of watching like a little line of movement here from north to south across this area of the Rockies. All right, let's see what else we have. Let me check Yellowstone real quick. Let me give a quick glance here at the seismograph stations. Doesn't look like there's too much activity popping off here today. We would see it, and it's just not. These are very small microquakes, if any. Very small, extremely. All right, the rest of the world here, aside from the Puerto Rico movement, which is still, got to watch this area because they do see some rather large earthquakes, and it's been, somewhat quiet, right, since we've seen any major movement here across the Chile area. Continue to watch that. The big island of Hawaii out here, Kilauea Volcano, of course, still showing some movement. A couple different clusters of quakes. Let's go ahead and check out the hazard notification system here from the USGS with regards to Kilauea Volcano. This was put out yesterday, so no update yet. We'll wait for that to be put out and include it in the nightly update. All right, Alaska area. Let's see what we got. I noticed some earthquake movement there on the globe. Looks like fairly active here across the Aleutian Trench yesterday. We did see another 4.8 here along the Aleutian Trench this morning. This prior 4-pointer was from yesterday, late last night. And I know we had some other activity upstream in the smaller quake department. It looks like things starting to kick up a little bit slightly along this area. Of course, it is a major subduction zone. Here's the Aleutian Trench. Average accumulation does go up here as we head west along the trench area due to the dynamics, but there is still obviously they do get some big earthquakes up here along the Alaska area. Right now though, just some 4s and a bunch of other smaller quakes out there in the Alaska area. Japan region, got one earthquake about 3 o'clock in the morning, a 4.9. That one coming in about 62 kilometers deep. Also, more recent earthquake here into the northern Mariana Islands area. This is the Mariana Trench, which sees some pretty good accumulated stress rate as well. 104 kilometers for the 4.6 coming in earlier this morning. Looks like that jumbled up activity that we've seen here yesterday kind of spreading out a little bit. Not quite as active around the Vanuatu area or the Tonga Trench. That is currently stationary and stable. Most of the movement today within this region showing around the Banda Sea area and the Indonesia Islands area up into the Philippines. A little cluster of earthquake activity there. So quiet right now on each side of this area. That includes the Java Trench and regions around Papua New Guinea eastward. Continue to watch that for some movement out here into the, oh goodness, what do we have going on out here? That's a good cluster of earthquakes out here in the USGS reporting it, hopefully. Looks like they are. Just south of Yemen, around the Gulf of Aden. That is an incredible amount of earthquake activity here. When did this kick up? Let's see here. Looks like late last night, about 11 22 or so. That came in, looks like this fired up right after my update last night. That's a lot of earthquake activity, folks. In the West Sheba Ridge area, again in this Gulf, it is a zipper. I was going to call it a zipper plate tectonic, but it kind of looks like one, right? Well, this is fracture zones and a divergent boundary here in the Gulf. Let's see if it shows it on this plate tectonic map here. It does have a little hint of it here, not too much. It shows separation in between the Arabia plate and the Africa plate. You see these two kind of spreading apart here. Of course, that's going to be the areas of the Red Sea. But this area, that's a lot of earthquake activity. I'm kind of curious to see what we have out here for large-scale movement. Can't really get too large out there, right? Unless you have something major going on underneath there. Let's go 6.0 and above. Who knows? We're getting into some interesting times out here as far as weather and all sorts of stuff. So we're going to draw a little area. I'm not really too concerned about the Red Sea. Just going to look here at the Gulf in this area that we're seeing the activity today. I think that covers it. Well, of course, let me double check here. I'm going to make sure I got the most recent map. That's just going to be right center right there in the Gulf. All right, let's see here. That's about right. Let's take a look here and see what we have for 6.0 and above. I kind of pulled up that area, and goodness, it's absent of earthquake activity here. Doesn't mean we can't see some 6-pointers. But as far as these divergent boundaries, they don't get too big unless something drastic happens, I guess, as far as not your normal activity in these areas. But for the most part, they run probably no more than 6.5 or so. There's 6.6 into this area. These were back in the 50s and 70s, it looks like. But as far as activity, recent activity, and anything above 6.0 looks fairly quiet. Bring up just the historical data here on the earthquake map. These will include the smaller maps here as well, or smaller magnitudes, I should say. And according to the key here, it looks like we do see some 4s and 5s within this area historically since about 1900 or so. But goodness, kind of crazy to see that amount of earthquake activity, though, in a short amount of time frame. I think anyone would agree on that. So right now we got about 15 earthquakes so far. Largest magnitude, I believe, is going to be that, 5.9. Coming in just after midnight. Continue to watch that. See if we got any unusual activity kicking up there in the region. Aside from that, up into the Turkey area, looks like they did see somewhat of a larger aftershock up there. Nothing showing up on the USGS map. I'm surprised. Let me bring the magnitudes down here a little bit and see what we have. I don't think it's going to let me do that. Well, there's a 2.2 coming in right now. Looks like maybe a 4.3 earthquake in there. One of the larger ones. Also a little bit of activity further westward into the Mediterranean. Either way, I would definitely keep my eye on areas today around this region of Iran, Turkey area. And that's due to the general plate dynamics here. With all this movement taking place here in the Gulf, the general flow right here, this is just a general flow of all the plates. The arrows point towards the north, northeast, along with the separation here of the divergent boundaries that could add further stress and strain along the Arabia plate and areas up around the plate boundary within this vicinity. So we'll watch that throughout the coming days. Atlantic Ocean, of course, we had some activity last night up in the Greenland Sea at 4.3, but nothing else since then. One earthquake down south here into the Ascension Island 4.6 from earlier yesterday. See here, Puerto Rico region, things tapering off. Only 9 earthquakes being reported here in the last 24 hours. Not that big of a deal. Of course, a couple areas to watch. Obviously, it's going to be the South America region in this area, as noted just a minute ago here. All right, let's check out space weather activity. There's not a whole lot going on down in New Zealand, but you know what? I always want to check, and sometimes I always forget to check. But they'll normally show up at least on the EMSC model sometimes. This activity from last night, as far as overnight activity goes, it looks like maybe a little speck of an earthquake here, South Island, further down south along the Alpine Fault here of the New Zealand area, a little speck as well, but doesn't look like any larger activity overnight. All right, solarham.net index site here. Well, looks like things are about as steady as she goes right now. 99% chance for a C flare, M flare at 35, X flare at 10. But boy, it's been fairly weak over the past couple days here in terms of solar flaring. Now, we do have a couple different sunspots that we are watching. Let me bring up the latest imagery here. We got this major sunspot. Looks like it's starting to get disorganized, though. Unfortunately, it's just one of those things that happens with the sunspot. They come and go. All depends on where you're at along the position here of the sun is what you will get. So right now, it's fairly calm conditions. A couple newer sunspots on the eastern limb of the sun. To be honest, they don't look all that impressive at all. Looking at their magnetic structure here, different colors of the polarity of the fields. Looks fairly stable up here. They're large, but they don't look all that unstable. We'll watch this one around here on the southeastern limb. We just don't have a good visual of it yet. Ones that we do have, though, are just very minimal. This one looks a lot more disorganized there we go, than yesterday. But we'll continue to watch it, right? They can always get fairly complex. There it is, 3323 on the visible sunspot disk. Very easy to spot if you have a solar telescope, but as far as any unstable cores within that sunspot, we'll just have to wait and see. Right now, it doesn't look like it, though. No major coronal holes facing us. No major severe solar storms headed our way. Very, very minimal in terms of the aurora forecast right now. Not a whole lot going on up there, folks, or down there. All right, the weather outlook here today. Thunderstorms all over the place over the next couple days, but I'm not seeing any major severe weather threat. If anything, way down south into southern Texas here, extreme southern Texas, up against the border there of Mexico, Laredo area, Rio Grande City, slight risk of some severe weather. No chances of tornadoes. Well, it doesn't mean there won't be any. There's just less than 2% chance, according to the Storm Prediction Center, in terms of the dynamics needed to form and produce a tornado. Looks like the main threat's going to be just some hail, or wind down there into the southern edge of Texas. Slight chance of some hail across some portions there of the country, but nothing major coming up, folks. Again, much needed precipitation without all the severe weather. I think most people will enjoy that. Alrighty, it's supposed to be about 95 degrees today here in Northern California, so I'm going to probably make it a pool day. I might barbecue, I don't know. See if I like to barbecue when I like to barbecue. It doesn't, not really dependent on weather, but we'll see what happens today. Sometimes I get a little barbecued out. But either way, have a good day, folks. Enjoy your weekend wherever you are at. And we'll catch you guys back here a little bit later tonight. Of course, new month and a new drawing coming up here on the 15th of this month here with the members only drawing. Make sure you guys get in here. We're going to be picking 2 winners from our member drawing bowl this month. Going to swap it off and on there. We'll do one. We'll see how it goes. We'll do 2 winners this month, and we'll see what happens next month or so. But I kind of like to up the chances a little bit, for the folks. Get a second chance there of maybe winning some prizes there from the monthly drawing. All right, we'll catch you guys back here a little bit later tonight. Have a good one. See ya.